Hey, good Thursday morning, and thank you for joining us at our new time. We'd be remiss if we didn't feature this absolutely essential department on what our communication specialist has termed as Talking with Tab. This week, we're excited and honored to welcome Chief of Police Nate Allen, who will be celebrating his 5th anniversary as Decatur Police Department's chief next month. Chief Allen has over 3 decades of law enforcement experience as a member of the Knoxville Police Department from 1986 to 2016. Chief Allen served in a host of roles from the Metro Narcotics Crime Unit to the department's first African-American Deputy Chief of Police. Chief Allen was welcomed to Decatur, as I mentioned, in 2016, where he has developed new opportunities for both civilian and sworn personnel. So Chief, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Now, let's see, so tell us, you have something kind of unique. You have twin daughters.
Yes, sir.
All right, and they're
14.
14, so they're in high school?
They're in middle school.
Fixing to go into high school?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
And be getting permits here pretty soon.
Let's not talk about it.
Very good. Well, y'all have definitely gotten acclimated to the area, being here.
Yes, sir.
You spend a lot of time, I know everything we want to go to pre-COVID, and we'll talk about COVID, but one of the things that you were doing a lot of pre-COVID, you were committed to being in the community.
Very much so.
Right.
Very
Talk a
much
little bit about that.
Well, it's my desire, and I feel that police officers, and especially police chiefs, need to be a part of the community, not separated from the community. We can't do our jobs without the community, and the community can't be safe without the police department. So we work hand in hand with the community, and that's one of my key focus of being a police chief is community-oriented policing, being transparent, making sure that the community know what we can and cannot do, and making sure our officers know about the community they serve.
And I've heard you share that if people don't talk and feel comfortable about talking and sharing with the police department, you can't help them.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Communication is key in all facets. I also feel that the problem with the nation today is that we don't communicate, we don't talk. And we have to sometimes agree to disagree, but we do have to talk. We have to communicate. We have to hear each other out. We have to hear both sides of it. In order to learn and progress, we have to communicate with one another.
You and I have had some conversations now as we're trying to come out of the pandemic, and we went through an election cycle, presidential election cycle. We saw something very disappointing happen in our nation's capital, and we're like-minded in the fact that we believe that there's statesmen that are going to rise up and bring calmness back to our nation and communities again. And we think we're seeing that here in our community. We're thankful for how people take care of this city and not doing things. So
and each other, and we have to take care of each other, and I think we do that here. We have a unique situation here. We have a very diverse city, as you know, and this city has come together in many, many different facets. I mean, from all people from all walks of life get together, we talk, we share, we take care of one another. And that helps us to guide the police department. That helps us as leaders for this city to guide this city. But it all falls back to humility, loving each other, and communication.
So you're exactly right. First, let me be sure not to go right past that. March 2020, COVID found its way in our area. We've been seeing it kind of creep in, and we saw some cases, and our city council declared a state of emergency.
Correct.
Following one that was declared by the state of Alabama by Governor Ivey. And at that point, it works best if we have one point of command during a crisis like that, you became our
Correct.
incident commander, and working closely with you while you made some very tough decisions.
Correct.
But they were, the way that you made those decisions, whenever we looked at Point Mallard, for example,
Mhm.
here it is, the 50th anniversary that we were going to celebrate in 2020, that we just kind of moved out a year.
Right.
But we sat down with Point Mallard Park and Rec leadership,
Mhm.
with me, and of course you leading, and collectively made a decision that it just wasn't best to open the park
That's
in
correct.
2020.
That's correct.
And we did that with some other events,
Mhm.
and then we had some challenges with parks that we wanted people to be active in parks, but there were other things that maybe didn't work well.
Correct.
Can you speak to?
That's correct. It was a very challenging year from the beginning of it. Very long, as everyone knows, and a hard year. But we are looking out for the safety and well-being of each and every citizen that's here in Decatur, and those who visit us too. So some of the decisions that we make, they may not be the most liked, but we still have to look at the safety and well-being of all the citizens on it. Shutting down Point Mallard was a huge decision because not only did it interrupt some folks' lives, but it also cost the city a loss in revenue. So you have to look at those things too. Our goal is not to shut down the city or anything like that. Our goal is for safety and security of this city in the best way that we know how. None of us have been through a pandemic before, so no one had the right answer. So we were all learning as we went. Even as incident commander, I took input from everybody around us because, you know, I've never been through a pandemic either. So we've been through critical incidents, and so I looked at my critical incidents experiences and put that into the pandemic. And so far, I think we did very well as a team. I don't take the credit for it. I don't give one person the credit for it, but it was a team approach, a team success.
Right. And I was there.
Yes,
I was
sir.
in those meetings and saw how we worked as a team. But even the Point Mallard leaders knew that for a lifeguard, it takes X number of days to train up lifeguards.
Oh, yes.
And we were to a point to where we were going to be halfway into the aquatic season, if you will, and we didn't know where the pandemic would be at that point.
Correct.
And we may not have any guests at the park.
Correct.
They knew that it was just best to
shut
not
it.
open the park. And
Right.
that made it.
And hindsight is always 2020. Looking back on it now, doing the highlights in the mid of the summer of 2020, we had as high as a 60% positivity rate. The hospitals were full with patients, with all ventilators being utilized. So I think the decision to shut down was the best thing to do. We didn't want to continue to add to that where the hospital was actually overflowing and they couldn't service the people that was really in need of service.
I was trying to remember what that number was yesterday. It's as high as 60%.
It was
Wow.
59.9 something percent. We got that high. So I just round up to 60%.
Okay.
And that's a high, very, very high percentage. Today we had a 2.9% positivity rate, which is very, very good.
And we want to stay there.
We want to stay there, yes. We encourage people still, you know, especially if you're sick, don't come to work. Still, if you're going to big, large gatherings, to wear a mask, be sure and sanitize and social distance the best you can now. The pandemic is not over, so we're still stressing those things.
So for those watching, the calls and the emails that I received the most inquiries about as far as opening up was getting the golf course open. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do.
So the day that you finally said yes to that,
Mhm.
we felt that it was okay to let that happen with certain, there were a few changes that took place
Yes,
there.
it was certain perimeters, and the golf course is one of the first things open because it's an outdoor event, and people normally already segregate, they separate themselves. We don't let large groups come in, but they were already outdoors in separation, wear a mask and sanitize. So that ended up working out a little better than we thought. Everything we're doing, we try to do it methodically and think our way through it. Even with the parks were still open, but we didn't want to open the playground areas where the young kids get together and they play and touch each other and rub their nose and then things can spread.
Sure.
So we wanted to open things up kind of a slow and methodical manner, and I think that worked out very well because our positivity rate is down very low now.
So, changing the direction a little bit in our conversation, tell us a little bit about your law enforcement journey.
Oh boy, it seemed like so long ago I started now in 1986. According to my mother, she said I always wanted to be a police officer. She said as a young boy I used to carry a little gun and badge around, so I guess that was my calling. I first started out as a news photographer in media, and my first degree was in communications. So I went from there to law enforcement, and it seemed like I've been progressing ever since. Started out as a patrol officer, and I loved that. Went to the field sergeant, loved that. Went to the field lieutenant. That was okay, but it was removing me away from the field work. Then I went to a patrol captain, and I loved every position I was in, but I think my most favorite position was patrol officer, because that was a time that I could really get out and help people along the way.
Okay, so I was going to ask you what you liked the most
Yes.
about your career, and it was being a patrol officer.
Yes, to help people along the way. And still today, I have open door policy. Folks call in with problems, and I address them. They come in and see me, and we talk about them. But I guess my goal is just I have a servant's heart, and what I want to do is serve.
Oh, good, good. You to do what we do, to do what you do, even more so. If you don't have a servant's heart, you're going to be miserable.
You're going to have a problem. You're going to have a real problem.
Right.
Because there's not a lot of gratitude. No one's going to come pat you on the back. No one. People may say thank you. They may not. But you have to have it in your heart to continue to serve people, because when they call the police, 99% of the time people are in their worst state when they call in on police for something.
This isn't a putting anyone down that wears a suit to work. I mean, I've got on a suit, but a lot of chiefs of police, they wear a coat, a tie.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since I've known you, you wear a uniform to work.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about your thinking there.
Well, to me, the uniform represents the police department. When you are not in uniform, oftentimes folks don't know you're the police chief. They don't know who you are. When you walk into an establishment, whatever it may be, they recognize you right away as being a police officer. Then they say, oh, you're the chief. And then they want to come talk to you and they engage you. So I do that to serve the community. I also do that to support the uniform body, the officers. So I can always stay grounded and feel exactly what the officers on the street are feeling when they approach citizens, when citizens approach them, when citizens see the uniform. Oftentimes when people are disgruntled with the police department, they're really disgruntled with the uniform in the form of government that it represents. If you take the uniform off, then you don't become that person anymore that represents the government. So I keep it on, it keeps me grounded, it keeps the officers knowing that I see exactly and experience exactly what they go through, and it lets the community know that I am a police officer and I'm there to serve and help.
Good, good. Now, what would you tell others, someone that might be interested in a career in law enforcement?
Oh, I think I've already answered that one by saying they got to have a servant's heart. I mean, you're not going to become rich. You may not always be well liked. You may be seeing people at their worst. It could be very stressful. You need a lot of family support. So you better have something. This better be the calling for you, because a lot of folks get in it thinking that, oh, I can wear a badge and carry a gun and drive fast, and they don't stay very long, because it's a lot more to that. It's mainly about serving.
Well, there's, I don't know, since I've been working in local government, it seems that if it's in your DNA to be a law enforcement officer or a firefighter, paramedic, that's exactly what you're going to do.
That is correct.
There's not much that's going to stop that.
That is correct.
And there's some that think that they want to, and they start the training process, and there's there's a filtering process that takes place there. By percentage, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you know percentage-wise the number of people that will enter into the training program as opposed to the number that actually come out and find their way into the department?
You know, in most situations, the percentage, you're gonna lose about 10%.
Okay.
Throughout the process, which is a large percent. Society has changed a lot now when it comes to policing. And what we have been experiencing is a person may have the heart and want to come into law enforcement, and their family talks them out of going into law enforcement because of what's going on the national set, because of what's going on in policing in general, and it could be because of their experience that they may have had with the police department. So you have a lot of factors that's pulling that person away from law enforcement and say go, and the financial side of it, the low pay. So they say you can come over here with your degree and make a lot more money doing this than you would as a police officer, even though that person's heart may be calling him into law enforcement, him or her into law enforcement.
Okay. Well, we have we've seen recently, and I say recently over the past couple of years, what I would like to refer to is some earned retirements,
Yes.
and the command staff, some captains, and those are wonderful things. And then another thing I get, both of us get to participate in. You strike it up first. Our promotions.
Yes.
And it's always good to see someone receive a promotion.
That's correct.
And, so we continue to see opportunities for promotion, and some getting into that earned retirement life stage.
Right. The police department is always evolving. It's always changing. It's ever changing, which is good because society change, the community makeup change, ideas change. So we're looking for young folks to come into the police department with new ideas, young ideas, so that we can bring them up to be the future leaders of tomorrow. And that's really the goal. I won't be around forever. The command staff that's here now won't be around forever, so we need to train folks to take our place. And that's what we do.
So I have a document on my desk that I received last week. Hadn't had an opportunity to say something to you about it, but I'll do it today. The department was recently recognized for low loss prevention and safety, the way they were graded out, and they were
Yes.
highly praised for every step throughout that assessment. Can you speak to that?
Oh, I think that comes a lot from our policies and procedures that we have in place. The officers out there, they know what they can and cannot do. They follow the rules, and I think they do an extremely good job under extraordinary circumstances, and that is very true. I get compliments weekly on officers' behavior and on what officers do. Now, granted, we're human. We may make a mistake. When we make a mistake, we stand behind that and say, okay, we need to improve it in that area because we're not perfect. As far as our liability, we are accredited, and the accreditation brings a lot of policies and procedures that we need to follow, which helps us to lower our liability standard. The accreditation is huge because we are sitting along 1% of police departments throughout this nation have accreditation.
That's worth repeating.
That's it, 1%.
1%.
It's 416 police departments in the state of Alabama, and we was the number 9th police department to receive our accreditation, and we was the last one. So there's only now 9 police departments in the state of Alabama who's accredited through CALEA, which is huge, which is a very huge step there.
And that was again a team effort in
Yes.
reaching that accreditation.
Oh yes, it's everything is a team effort. When they go through the policies, we have about 480 policies with about 187 standards that we have to meet in order to achieve and maintain the accreditation, the national accreditation standard.
Okay. Well, before we wrap up, I've been asking all the questions. Is there something that maybe you would like to share that I've missed?
No, the only thing that I guess I would share is that remember the police department is community-based. We are there to serve. We have a citizen advisory board to help us make decisions during difficult times. And when we make a mistake, bring it to our attention and bring a solution so that we can correct it.
Excellent. Well, now, boy, sometimes we get to get away. How do you like to unwind?
Oh, we'd like to go camping. We may take the RV out and go sit around the beach or under a tree for a while and do nothing. That's our.
You talk about that. I hear about your trips and such. Sound like y'all have a nice time.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Well, Chief, we certainly appreciate you. We appreciate your leadership. This is I hear about. I go to different breakfast spots. Mm-hmm. Throughout the week, now that we're able to kind of get back together at these locations.
Yes.
And even in I have a Tuesday morning Bible study and Thursday morning, and people are very concerned about law enforcement right now across our nation, and our officers wanting to stay in the profession.
Right.
You know, it's very concerning.
Right.
So know that there's a lot of folks in this community that are praying for you.
Thank you. And prayer work.
Yes,
so
sir.
Continue on. We ask for prayer all the time, and our chaplains come along and pray with us, and I think that's the way to go. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, you can sign up for our newsletter by texting Decatur to 42828. That's 42828, and our next edition comes out on Friday, May the 7th. And with that, we will see you again next week. Thank you.